Thanks, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here again. My name is Jonathan Odd, President, CEO, and co-founder of Dakota Gold Corp. Today I'm here to talk to you about what we're doing in the Black Hills district of South Dakota. We are revitalizing a historic gold camp in Lead, South Dakota. I might make a few forward-looking statements. I'll try to keep most of my opinions to myself. So we've been quite busy in the last year and a half. We merged with a public company called Dakota Territory Resource Corp last April. We uplisted to the NYSE American. We've got 4 rigs turning. We've made 2 discoveries this year on our Maitland project, which is contiguous with the old Homestake mine. 2 rigs are active at Maitland, 2 rigs are active at Richmond Hill. We've gone through a fairly significant consolidation exercise, going from sub 5,000 acres to almost 50,000 acres. It's important to note that everything we're doing right now is on private ground, and that's really important when you look at permitting in the U.S. and the challenges that exist with permitting on federal ground. And I'll go into a bit more detail later on. For those of you that haven't been to Lead, South Dakota, it's about an hour drive from Rapid City, and you can fly into Rapid City from most major U.S. cities. And our head office is in Lead there. So this is a combination of entrepreneurial geologists, capital markets, and people who used to work in the old Homestake mine. And this is what brought us all together was an opportunity to really be first mover in this district and to go from sub 5,000 acres to almost 50,000 acres. And getting access to all of the Barrick data has really informed our consolidation efforts and our exploration program that I'm going to get into in a few minutes. And just given the theme of this conference, cash is very important, so we have just under 20 million US in the bank. So when I refer to the Homestake district, this is what I'm referred to as. So Lead there, that's where our head office is. You'll see the state's only producing gold mine just to the west there called Wharf. That's owned and operated by Core Mining. Our primary asset right now is called Maitland. That's where 2 of our 4 rigs are drilling. This is contiguous with the old mine, which produced 40 million ounces of gold over a 125-year period. And we do have other projects in the district that are going through the whole permitting process now to drill. That's at Blind Gold and Tinton. So I'll work through this quickly. So we've done 3 deals with Barrick over the last 3 years. The first deal we did was in green there called Maitland. And it's important to note that these acquisitions were done out of Barrick's closure group. So when Barrick came in and acquired Homestake in 2001, Barrick did not acquire Homestake for South Dakota. So a lot of these assets went right into their closure group. So this would be the 3rd deal that Barrick has done during the Mark Bristow era out of their closure group, with the other 2 being K92 and Skeena. So Maitland, contiguous with the old mine, over 2,000 acres of private ground, several historic non-SK 1300 compliant resources, and it also contained a discovery that Homestake made back in the early 90s, which I'll walk you through in a few minutes. The second deal is an option over the surface area of the old mine. That's highlighted in red. What that gave us was exclusive access to Homestake's data and 125 years of it. And as I outlined earlier, this really informed a larger consolidation and roll-up of the district, and it also really helped with the planning and execution of our Phase 1 drill program. The third deal we did was to acquire an option on Richmond Hill, past producer, and then around this time last year we amended the deal. You'll see some isolated erratic yellow shapes just to the south of Richmond Hill towards the Wharf area that we now have an option on. This is really what drew us to do this opportunity. On the right-hand side of the page is the former Homestake mine. So 40 million ounces of gold. Still to this day, it's the largest single gold mine in the history of the U.S. So 40 million ounces, 9 gold zones, roughly a quarter ounces per ton. Early 90s, Homestake recognized that what they had was a finite resource, and they started to look outside of the old mine. They drifted over at the 6,800 foot level onto the Maitland project, spent almost $75 million back in the mid-90s, and they made a discovery to what they call the North Drift discovery. However, the decision had already been made to shut the mine down. So the mine shut down in 2001. The decision was made in 1997 again. So when Barrick came in here, it was not for South Dakota. So over the last year, it was really proof of concept for us to prove that there was mineralized homestake formation several miles north of the old mine. And we've done that. We announced our discovery called the JB Zone, which we announced back in May. And we've now followed up on that with our best drill result in that discovery, 5 meters of 19.5 grams. And we hit an upper zone that was the shallowest we've hit mineralized homestake formation. And that was just over 8 meters of 8 grams. There's also another opportunity for us at Maitland, which is in the tertiary aged rocks, so a younger package of rocks that typically sits on top of the Precambrian mineralization. And we announced a discovery back in February, which we've called the Unionville Zone, which was the name of the original claim back in the 1870s. So 2 of our 4 rigs are drilling here now. We've drilled over 100,000 feet in the last year at Maitland. Again, really focusing on advancing the JB discovery and the Unionville Zone within the tertiary. So it might be hard for some of you in the back here, but the red is mineralized homestake formation. The subtle blue color is the tertiary. And when we started drilling here, we only had 2 drill pads, so we were quite limited to where we could drill. We now have 18 drill pads that go both south towards the old mine and north to our property boundary. So we're really going to be stepping out to try to define a much broader strike length within the tertiary. And we're doing directional drilling now within the JB discovery to look at tightening up that drill spacing within the JB discovery. So we have a lot of questions get asked, well, is this homestake style mineralization? Is this actually similar to what homestake mined? So the top image is the intercept from our discovery hole in the JB zone, 7 ledge and main ledge. And 97% of homestake formation is not mineralized. So when you encounter gold mineralization in the homestake, you typically need to see 4 or 5 key ingredients that are present: chalcopyrite, chlorite, pyrrhotite, quartz, and arsenopyrite. You see all those things present here. So that's what we've been prioritizing. But again, drilling off this tertiary, every drill hole we drill now has an opportunity to hit both kinds of mineralization. So this 16 feet of 0.57 and the 23.5 feet of a quarter ounce, that was in one hole, 2 zones. So we are looking at tightening up that drilling to see whether it's part of one broader zone or whether it's 2 distinct gold zones. So tertiary, I'll have to work through this quite quickly here. So the tertiary homestake never assayed for any tertiary mineralization in the old mine. And I have to give credit to James Berry and our technical team for being open to looking for a new type of mineralization in a camp that's had a certain way of doing things for 125 years. And I'll just jump to this slide here. So again, the blue outlines the prospective strike length. It's almost 11,000 feet. Some of those samples were samples taken by Dakota Territory Resource Corp prior to the merger with JR Resources. So you see that tertiary is traced almost several miles north of where we have been drilling. And you'll see a cluster of drill pads there just north of where MA 9302 was drilled. We have a number of pads that are now permitted. We're going to be drilling right at the border with Maitland and Blind Gold. So we own Blind Gold, but it's on U.S. Forest Service. So there's a different permitting timeline for that. And that's what this next phase of drilling is designed to do. Richmond Hill, again, all on private ground. And again, it's one of the key themes for us here is being able to somewhat control our own narrative. We amended the deal as I outlined, incorporating some additional land from Barrick, and 2 of our 4 rigs are drilling here at Richmond Hill. We are almost finished the drilling for the resource, so we'll have a maiden resource to the market in Q1 of 24. So we'll have 1 rig drilling at Richmond Hill, and that will focus on exploration type holes. And so it's a little bit tough to see this. There's a lot going on here, but last week we announced our best GT intercept at Richmond Hill that was 300 plus meters of almost a gram. And it was in Precambrian mineralization underneath the tertiary. And once we had finished drilling the holes required to make this resource compliant, so the cutoff is end of September, and this is a compilation of 800 historical drill holes and the 50 or so holes that we've drilled, and that will be towards our maiden resource at Richmond Hill. This is really significant, and this is really why we went after Richmond Hill, was there had been little to no drilling ever in those basement rocks underneath the tertiary, underneath the oxide that lac minerals and core were going after. Was how can we find more oxide? Our interest was primarily to go underneath that into that Precambrian unit, and we had a great hit. So follow-up drilling is required here to understand what it means, and that's what the next half a dozen drill holes are going to entail. So we have, I think, 12 holes that are left from the Richmond Hill program that are in the lab for assaying, and those are all towards the maiden resource at Richmond Hill. And again, this next phase of drilling at Richmond Hill is really towards exploration, stepping out and drilling off these other breccia pipes. So only one of the breccia pipes has been drilled. They do demonstrate an ability to make high grade, and what we're finding is that the gold mineralization is not confined to the breccias. So I will talk for a few minutes or a minute or so about ESG because it's really important. Most of our employees are from the South Dakota School of Mines, either live in Lead or Deadwood or Sturgis, and that's really important for us to have a license to operate here, strong social ties to the community, and that's really led by Jerry Aberley, our COO, born and raised here, used to work at Homestake, second-generation miner. This was really his vision to roll up and consolidate this district. I guess he just never found a group that was crazy enough to partner with him. And we've had zero issues operating here. Again, a lot of it is because of those relationships, but because this is on private ground. Cap table shareholdings, I think it's really important to talk about alignment that management has with its shareholders. We own over 25% of the company. Our co-chair that's sitting in the audience here, Mr. Quartermain, does not draw a salary, and he's the company's largest shareholder. Good group of people. A lot of these people came on after we merged with Dakota Territory Resource Corp. Cash, Agentis and Canaccord cover us. Because of the nature of this listing, we were able to get into the Russell 3000 and the GDXJ. Great group, and one of the appealing factors for Bob and I to get involved with this was really the opportunity to partner with Jerry Aberley, James Barry, and Steve O'Rourke, the other co-chair, ex-BHP, C-suite, had multi-billion-dollar exploration programs running BHP Global Exploration. Also a South Dakota School of Mines grad, lives in Rapid City. So, and then last edition, we brought on Patrick Malone, who used to run the Barrick Closure Group, and he's been a phenomenal resource for us and will be for the next phase that we have. And I guess my time is up here. Do I have any time for questions or?
No, they limit what you can do, but thank you very much. A great story. Look forward to seeing what happens. Thanks.
Thank you.